My father grew up in an area around Cleveland, Ohio, while my mother grew up in Maryland. In high school, they both knew they wanted to go to college, but didn't have the grades for a scholarship or the money to pay for going, so they both ended up joining the military. After basic training, they both ended up here, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. My dad was 19 and my mother was 18, and in the late summer of that year, they found out they had a little bundle of joy on the way. That little bundle of joy was me, Jaden David Rabton. I was born on May 7th, 2002 at 2:57 a.m. I was an average-sized baby at 12 inches long, sitting at a comfortable 6 pounds 8 ounces. In retrospect, 2002 was a pretty good year. Kmart went bankrupt, Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears split up, the Queen of England died. No, it was actually pretty bad. But seriously, on a lighter note, Eminem dropped his first ever hit song. And one of my favorite movies of all time hit theaters. In November of the following year, my brother was born and my childhood was officially underway. Now, if I had to describe my childhood in one word, it would have to be atypical. Turns out my mother and father weren't exactly on those same wavelengths, as they ended up getting divorced not long after my little brother was born. I was too young at the time to really understand what was going on, but I quickly got used to the only occasionally ever seeing my mother. So yeah, we ended up living with our dad, moving around a ton because of his job in the army. We lived in Mississippi, Missouri, New York, Tennessee, Ohio, changing venues once about every 2 years. It was awesome growing up with him, simply because of his wild spontaneousness. This primarily came in the form of us traveling frequently with little to no planning beforehand. Most notably, it's what he's affectionately dubbed the quest to conquer the US. Basically, we drive through the given state, take a picture next to the sign and capital, then turn around and go home. Well, it's not always that tedious. Sometimes we knock out several in a row on a road trip. We've done this several times while traveling up to Maine, going southwest on our way to California, and back east on the north side coming back from Cali. Our goal is to do all 50 states in the US, and so far we've done 49, minus Alaska. Anyways, this routine continued consistently till I was about 9, and finally my parents had come to the agreement to let my brother and I live with our mother. We got to spend the summer of that year with her, and it was great because it was by far the longest time I can remember spending with her. However, it didn't last nearly as long as I would have liked. One night in the middle of August of 2012, the cops unexpectedly showed up and kicked down the door to our townhouse. Turns out she had overdosed on compressed air, a feat I didn't even know was possible until sometime afterwards. She ended up going to the hospital where she went into cardiac arrest and later died. Yeah, so after that happened, it took a year of living with my grandmother to help me recuperate from the loss. At this time, I also used the original Spider-Man movie as a coping mechanism. Now that might sound weird, but for me it was like a link to my mom, as it had been the first ever film I'd watched and I'd happened to see it with her. Pokemon also helped a ton at this time, as I could waste hours upon hours running around Johto or Kanto, escaping the hardships that faced me in real life. The following year I moved back with my dad and down to Arkansas. 2 years after that, we moved to Hawaii. In the 3 years that I spent there was by far the time I can definitively say that I grew up the most. It's where I found my infatuation with the human body and its anatomy. It's where I started my first YouTube channel and discovered the hobby of video making. And most importantly, it's where I discovered my love of the best food on earth, that being sushi. Now, if I were to fast forward onward from this point, a few things would happen. First and foremost, I would graduate high school, and then hopefully go on to attend my dream college of Ohio State. In college, I would take the required pre-med courses with the hopes of getting into medical school. I would also make videos like this one in order to kill my free time. Actually, being able to get into medical school is really competitive, so I wouldn't particularly care where I end up as long as I'm able to get in. Following this, I would go through residency, eventually ending up wherever a hospital wants me as an attending physician. Now with a license to practice medicine, I would really love to become a cardiothoracic surgeon. But the field of otolaryngology is becoming increasingly more and more appealing to me as time goes on. Now, as far as marriage goes, I would like to have someone that's smart, interesting, and consistent. But most of all, though, I would want someone that helps me be the best possible version of myself. However, in regards to children, I do have a much clearer picture of what I want for them. I'd want them to see the value and importance in learning and education. I'd also want them to discover what they love to do rather than forcing it upon them. And above all else, I just want them to be happy. I'd essentially try and model my parenting style after Atticus Finch from How to Kill a Mockingbird, because I think he did a masterful job of raising kids who are intelligent in numerous ways. And he did this by presenting the world in an unfiltered, unbiased, brutally honest way that I hope that I can replicate with my kids. In my later years, once the kids move out, I'd want to transition into a more laid-back lifestyle. Not to say that it wouldn't work, but it definitely wouldn't be the grinding style of labor I would have done in my younger years. At this age, I see myself as more of a teacher, passing down my experience to future generations of those looking to go into the medical field. Fast forwarding even more, in my elder years, I just hope that I'm in good enough health to take care of myself and not stay in a nursing home. This is because I'd like to maintain my privacy as well as the ability to maintain control over myself. At this age, I'd probably try my hand at writing a book, maybe a memoir of sorts documenting past experiences. Anyways, the inevitability of death is something nobody can escape, so when it does eventually arrive, I just want my funeral to be as minimal as possible, with only my closest friends and family attending. With that being said, I hope the eulogy presented at my funeral would focus more on the impact my life had on those around me rather than detailing or over-glorifying mine. But that about wraps it up for me and the story of my life. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you all enjoyed it.